The perfect night of a millionaire businessman almost ended in tragedy on the waters. It was the desperate voice of a street girl that stopped him from boarding with his family on a sabotaged yacht. When he dove in, he found a ticking time bomb. If you were touched by this beautiful story of resilience and love, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us which city you're watching from. Continuing. The Seattle skyline glowed amber as the sun began its descent into Elliott Bay. Robert Blackwell stood at the edge of Shilshole Marina, hands in the pockets of his tailored suit, watching the day's last light dance across the water. This was supposed to be the perfect evening, the culmination of 15 years of relentless work, sacrifice, and ambition. At 42, Robert had transformed Blackwell Logistics from a small regional shipping company into the Pacific Northwest's most innovative supply chain enterprise. Today marked the signing of a $50 million contract with Asia-Pac Industries, a deal that would cement his company as an industry leader and secure his family's future for generations. The celebration awaited aboard the Celestial Dawn, his 90-foot luxury yacht gleaming white against the darkening sky. Robert had spared no expense. Fresh Maine lobster flown in that morning, vintage Dom Perignon chilling in silver buckets, and a private chef preparing a sunset dinner for the most important people in his life. "Mr. Blackwell?" The marina attendant approached. "Everything's ready aboard, sir. Captain Miller says you can board whenever you'd like." Robert nodded, his eyes fixed on the vessel. "Thank you, Kevin. I'll be there shortly." He checked his Rolex, 6:45 p.m. The contract had been signed at 5:30, with handshakes and photographs capturing a moment Robert had visualized for years. Now came the part he'd been looking forward to most, sharing this triumph with Jessica and Tyler. As if summoned by his thoughts, his phone buzzed with a text from his wife. "We're all set on board." Tyler's getting impatient. "Where are you, honey?" Robert smiled, picturing his 8-year-old son bouncing around the yacht's main salon, his energy boundless as always. Tyler had been talking about this celebration dinner for weeks. Jessica had likely dressed him in the little blazer he hated but wore because Dad dresses like this for important stuff. He typed back, "Just finishing a call. Be there in 5. It wasn't entirely true. The calls and emails had ended 30 minutes ago. Robert simply wanted this moment, this brief, private recognition of what he'd accomplished. His father, a longshoreman who'd worked the Seattle docks for 40 years, would have been proud to see his son owner of the largest yacht in the marina. Robert took a deep breath, straightening his tie as he turned toward the long dock where Celestial Dawn waited. The walkway stretched before him, a path to celebration, to validation, to the reward for countless 16-hour days and missed weekends. He had taken only a few steps when he heard it, the sound of bare feet slapping against wood, running feet, moving fast, desperate. Robert turned to see a small figure racing down the dock toward him. "Mr. Blackwell! Mr. Blackwell, stop!" Even in the fading light, he recognized her immediately. The girl couldn't have been more than 10, skinny, with dirty blonde hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She wore the same faded blue hoodie she always had, torn jeans and no shoes. Lily, the dock kid. Robert had first encountered her 6 months ago, huddled under a tarp during a rainstorm as he was leaving his yacht. She'd become a fixture around the marina since then, sometimes helping the staff for spare change, sometimes just watching the boats with hungry eyes. Robert had bought her meals occasionally, given her money for new clothes she never seemed to wear, and once had the marina manager let her use the shower facilities when she looked particularly grimy. Now, Lily was sprinting toward him, her face twisted with urgency. "Lily, what's wrong?" She skidded to a stop, nearly colliding with him, her chest heaving as she tried to catch her breath. Don't go on your boat," she managed between gasps. "Please, Mr. Blackwell." Robert frowned, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Calm down. What are you talking about?" Lily's eyes were wide with terror. "I saw them. 2 men. They were underneath your boat doing something to it." "2 men?" Robert's frown deepened. "What men? What were they doing?" "I don't know exactly." Her voice trembled. "But I heard them talking. They said something about causing a catastrophe and making sure no one survived. One of them mentioned a timer." Robert stared at her, a chill running through him despite the warm evening. His first instinct was disbelief. This was a child from the streets, known for her imagination. Surely there was a rational explanation. "Lily, are you sure about this? Maybe they were just maintenance workers." She shook her head vigorously, tears forming in her eyes. "No, I know what the marina guys look like. These men were different. They wore black clothes and kept looking around to make sure no one saw them. She grabbed his sleeve. Please believe me. Your family is on that boat. Robert looked past her toward the celestial dawn. From this distance, everything appeared normal. He could see the interior lights glowing warmly, could make out the silhouette of Captain Miller on the bridge. Jessica and Tyler were waiting. The chef had prepared a special menu. The evening had been planned for weeks. Mr. Blackwell, please. Lily's voice cracked. I wouldn't make this up. Robert hesitated. He was a man of logic and evidence, not one to alter plans based on a child's wild story. And yet, there was something in Lily's eyes, a raw fear that seemed too genuine to dismiss. His phone buzzed again. Jessica, Tyler's getting really hungry. Are you coming? I need to think, he muttered, more to himself than to Lily. Robert's mind raced through possibilities. If he delayed boarding to investigate, he risked ruining the perfect evening over nothing. If he ignored Lily's warning, and she was somehow right. Wait here, he finally said, pulling out his phone to call Captain Miller. Yes, Mr. Blackwell, the captain's voice answered promptly. James, I need you to do a complete check of the vessel. Engine room, electrical systems, everything. There was a pause. Sir, we did the standard checks before departure prep. Everything's in perfect order. I understand, but I need you to check again, thoroughly, now. May I ask why, sir? Robert glanced at Lily, who was watching him with pleading eyes. Just a precaution, and please be discreet. I don't want to alarm my family. Yes, sir. I'll get on it immediately. As Robert ended the call, Jessica texted again. Robert, is everything okay? He typed back. Small issue with the engines. Captain's checking it out. Won't be long. 15 anxious minutes passed as Robert waited on the dock with Lily. The girl hadn't said much more, just kept insisting that what she'd seen was real. Robert paced, checking his watch repeatedly, torn between growing impatience and lingering concern. Finally, Captain Miller called back. Sir, I've checked everything. Engines, electrical systems, hull integrity, fuel lines. Everything's normal. Whatever this concern was, I can assure you the vessel is completely safe. Relief washed over Robert. Thank you, James. I'll be boarding shortly. He turned to Lily, offering a gentle smile. The captain's checked everything. The boat is fine. But thank you for your concern. Lily's face fell. He didn't check the right place. They were underneath, by the back, doing something to the bottom of the boat. Her voice rose. Please, Mr. Blackwell. I know what I saw? Robert sighed, feeling a mixture of sympathy and frustration. Lily, I appreciate you looking out for me, but the Celestial Dawn is a sophisticated vessel. If something was wrong, the systems would detect it. But, no more buts, he said firmly. It's getting late and my family is waiting. He reached into his pocket and pulled out $100 bill. Here, get yourself something to eat and maybe some new shoes. Lily stared at the money but didn't take it. I don't want your money. I want you to believe me. Something in her voice, the sincerity, the desperation, made Robert pause again. What if she was right? What if something had been missed? Mr. Blackwell, Jessica's voice called out. Robert turned to see his wife standing on the yacht's rear deck, waving. Her red cocktail dress caught the last rays of sunlight. Are you coming? He raised his hand in acknowledgement, then turned back to Lily. The girl's eyes were brimming with tears now, her small hands clenched into fists. Last chance, Mr. Blackwell, she whispered. Please. In that moment, looking into Lily's eyes, Robert made a decision that would forever alter the course of his life and the lives of everyone he loved. He pulled out his phone once more and dialed Captain Miller. James, I'm going to need diving equipment, and I need you to get my family off the yacht. Tell them there's been a change of plans. What's going on? Jessica demanded as she descended the gangway, her heels clicking against the wooden dock. Tyler trailed behind her, disappointment evident in his slumped shoulders. Robert, we've been waiting for an hour. The lobster's getting cold and Tyler's been... She stopped short when she noticed Lily standing beside her husband. Jessica recognized the girl from Robert's occasional mentions, the marina stray he sometimes helped. Her expression shifted from irritation to confusion. I need to check something, Robert said, his voice low and serious. Captain Miller is preparing diving equipment. Diving equipment? Jessica's perfectly shaped eyebrows arched in disbelief. Robert, it's our celebration dinner. What could possibly... Mrs. Blackwell, Lily interrupted, her voice small but determined. I saw bad men doing something to your boat, under the water part. Jessica's gaze hardened, as she looked from the girl to her husband. "And you believe this?" "Robert, she's just a child looking for attention." Robert placed a hand on his wife's arm. "Jess, please, just give me 15 minutes to check. If nothing's there, we'll go back on board and have our dinner." Jessica studied his face, recognizing the resolve in his eyes. In 15 years of marriage, she'd learned when Robert wouldn't be swayed. She sighed. "Fine. 15 minutes. But this better be worth ruining our evening." Captain Miller approached, carrying scuba gear. "Everything's ready, mister." "Blackwell, I want to watch," Tyler exclaimed, suddenly animated by the prospect of his father going diving. "Take them to the Marina Lounge," Robert instructed Miller, nodding toward Jessica and Tyler. "I'll be quick." As Miller led his family away, Robert turned to Lily. "Show me exactly where you saw these men." Lily pointed toward the stern of the yacht. "There. They were doing something underneath where the back part curves down." Robert began donning the diving equipment, his mind racing. Part of him still believed this was a wild goose chase, but something about Lily's certainty had gotten under his skin. He'd built Blackwell Logistics on trusting his instincts, and right now those instincts told him to listen to this girl. "Have you ever been on a boat before, Lily?" he asked as he checked his oxygen tank, trying to keep his tone conversational despite his growing apprehension. "No," she replied, watching him with wide eyes. "But I've watched them from the shore all my life." "Where are your parents?" The question had been on his mind for months, but he'd never found the right moment to ask. Lily's expression shuttered. "My mom left when I was little. My dad, he's gone now. Been on my own for 2 years. Robert paused, struck by the matter-of-fact way she delivered this information. 2 years? But you're 10, she finished for him. Almost 11. Before Robert could respond, Miller returned. "Your family's settled in the lounge, sir. They're not happy, but they're safe." "Good." Robert finished securing his equipment. "I'll be down there for 5 minutes, Max. If I find anything, I'll signal with 3 tugs on the safety line." With Lily watching intently from the dock, Robert lowered himself into the dark waters of Elliott Bay. The evening light barely penetrated the surface, forcing him to rely on his underwater flashlight. The cold water enveloped him as he descended along the hull of his beloved yacht. For the first few moments he saw nothing unusual, just the familiar curve of the Celestial Dawn's immaculate hull. "This is ridiculous," he thought. "I'm missing my celebration dinner because of a child's imagination." But he continued, methodically making his way toward the stern where Lily had directed him. As his light swept across the underside of the vessel near the propeller shafts, something reflected back, something that didn't belong. Robert swam closer, his heart beginning to pound against his ribcage. There, secured to the hull with industrial magnets, was a small black box with wires extending into a sealed panel that had been cut into his yacht. A panel that shouldn't exist. And on the box was a small digital display, numbers counting down. 0432, 0431, 0430. Robert's blood turned colder than the surrounding water. Lily had been right. Someone had attached a sabotage device to his yacht, one that would have activated while they were out in the middle of the bay. 3 sharp tugs on the safety line brought immediate response. Within seconds he was being hauled up to the surface, where Miller and 2 Marina security officers were waiting. "There's a device attached to the hull," Robert gasped as he emerged from the water. "Some kind of mechanical sabotage system. Call the Coast Guard and Harbor Police, now." As security personnel rushed to make calls, Robert climbed onto the dock, water streaming from his wetsuit. Lily stood a few feet away, her expression a mixture of vindication and fear. "You were right," he told her, his voice shaking slightly. "How did you know to look there? How did you happen to see those men?" Lily hugged herself, suddenly looking even smaller. "I sleep under the dock sometimes. It's safer than the streets. I was there when they came. They didn't see me." The implications of what might have happened hit Robert like a physical blow. If Lily hadn't warned him, if he hadn't listened to her. Jessica and Tyler appeared, running down the dock with Captain Miller trailing behind them. "Robert, security told us. Is it true?" Jessica's face was pale with shock. He nodded grimly. "Someone rigged a device to the hull. If we'd gone out into the bay." He couldn't finish the sentence, not with Tyler standing there wide-eyed, but Jessica understood. Her gaze shifted to Lily, seeing the girl in an entirely new light. "You saved our lives," she whispered. Lily looked down at her bare feet. "I just told what I saw." Within minutes, the marina was swarming with emergency responders. The Coast Guard established a perimeter around the Celestial Dawn, and a bomb squad arrived to assess the device. Robert and his family were escorted to the Marina office for questioning, and he insisted that Lily come with them. As they waited, Tyler sat beside Lily, regarding her with undisguised fascination. "How come you don't have shoes?" he asked with a child's directness. "Tyler," Jessica admonished gently. "It's okay," Lily said. "I had shoes, but they got stolen last month when I was sleeping." Tyler's eyes widened. "You sleep outside? Even when it rains?" Lily shrugged. "You get used to it." Jessica exchanged a glance with Robert, something unspoken passing between them. Before they could discuss it further, a Coast Guard officer entered the room. "Mr. Blackwell, we've secured the device. It appears to be designed to cause catastrophic engine failure when the yacht reached higher speeds. The mechanical sabotage would have disabled the steering and potentially caused an explosion in the engine room." "Who would do this?" Jessica asked, her voice tight with anger and fear. "Who would want to hurt us?" The officer's expression was grave. "That's what we intend to find out, ma'am. We'll need to ask you some questions about anyone who might wish harm to your family or business." As the questioning began, Robert's mind raced through possibilities. Blackwell Logistics had competitors, certainly, but none that he believed would resort to such extremes. This wasn't just business rivalry. This was personal. "Mr. Blackwell," the officer continued, "do you have any surveillance footage of the marina? Anything that might have captured these individuals?" "The marina has cameras," Robert confirmed, "but they don't cover every angle of the docks or the water." "I can describe them," Lily offered quietly. One was tall with a scar on his chin. The other was shorter with really white blonde hair. They both wore black clothes with no words on them. The officer looked impressed. "That's very observant. Anything else you remember? Did they say any names?" Lily's forehead creased in concentration. "They didn't say their names, but they mentioned someone else. They said, 'Reynolds will pay us when it's done.'" Robert froze. "Reynolds? Are you sure that's the name you heard?" Lily nodded firmly. "Yes, Reynolds?" Jessica grasped Robert's arm. "Thomas Reynolds? From Reynolds Transport?" The name hung in the air like a thundercloud. Thomas Reynolds was the CEO of Reynolds Transport, Blackwell Logistics' main competitor in the Pacific Northwest. The two companies had been locked in fierce competition for years, but this was unthinkable. "We'll look into it," the officer assured them, making notes. "In the meantime, we'll need full statements from everyone, including the young lady." As the night wore on, the initial shock began to fade, replaced by exhaustion and lingering fear. Tyler eventually fell asleep on a chair, while Jessica made quiet phone calls to cancel their weekend plans. Robert found himself sitting next to Lily, who had remained remarkably composed throughout the ordeal. She'd answered questions clearly and confidently, impressing the officers with her detailed observations. "Where will you go tonight?" Robert asked her softly. Lily shrugged. "Same places I always go. There's a sheltered spot behind the bait shop that's usually empty." Robert shook his head. "Not anymore. Not after what you did for us tonight." Lily looked at him questioningly. "You're coming home with us," he said, the decision crystallizing in his mind. "At least for tonight." "Robert," Jessica said, having overheard. She pulled him aside, lowering her voice. "What are you thinking? We can't just take a child home with us." "She saved our lives, Jess," Robert replied firmly. "We can't leave her on the streets, not tonight. Not ever again if I have anything to say about it." Jessica studied her husband's face, recognizing the same determination she'd seen countless times in their years together, the look that had built a business empire from nothing. She glanced at Lily, this small, brave girl who had changed everything in a single evening. "Okay," she finally agreed. "For tonight. But tomorrow we need to contact proper authorities." When the officers finally released them close to midnight, Robert led his exhausted family and their unexpected guest to the parking garage. As they walked, Lily hung back slightly, as if unsure of her place in this group. "Come on," Tyler said, suddenly awake and reaching for her hand. "You can sit next to me in the car. Our house has 5 bathrooms. Do you like pancakes? Mom makes the best pancakes." For the first time that evening, Lily smiled, a small, cautious curve of her lips that transformed her face from watchful to beautiful. As they drove away from the marina, leaving behind the celestial dawn and the celebration that never happened, Robert glanced in the rearview mirror at the 2 children in the back seat. Tyler was already teaching Lily how to play a game on his tablet, their heads bent together in concentration. "What are we getting ourselves into?" Jessica whispered, following his gaze. Robert reached over to squeeze her hand. I don't know exactly, but it feels right. What none of them realized as they drove through the quiet Seattle streets was that this night was just the beginning. The device on the yacht hadn't just been a threat to their lives, it was the first thread in unraveling a tapestry of secrets that had been woven long before Lily appeared on that dock. The Blackwell residence stood atop Queen Anne Hill, a contemporary masterpiece of glass and steel with sweeping views of Puget Sound. As Robert's Range Rover pulled into the circular driveway, Lily pressed her face against the window, eyes wide at the sight of the illuminated three-story home. You live here? She whispered to Tyler. It's like a castle. Tyler grinned, accustomed to his privileged life, but enjoying her reaction. Wait till you see inside. We have a media room and an indoor pool. Robert exchanged glances with Jessica in the front seat. The night's events had left them both shaken, but Jessica's expression had softened since leaving the marina. The maternal instinct that made her such a devoted mother to Tyler was clearly responding to Lily's situation. It's late, Jessica said as they entered the house. I think we could all use some rest. Tyler, show Lily to the guest room next to yours. I'll find her something to wear, Robert added, heading toward the laundry room where they kept some of Tyler's outgrown clothes. Left alone momentarily in the soaring entry hall, Lily stood motionless, taking in her surroundings. The Blackwell home featured museum-worthy art, designer furniture, and floor-to-ceiling windows that would frame the panoramic view come daylight. It was a different universe from the streets and shelters she'd known for the past 2 years. Come on, Tyler tugged at her hand. I'll show you where you're sleeping. Lily followed him up the curved staircase, her dirty bare feet leaving subtle marks on the pristine marble steps. Tyler chatted excitedly, pointing out features of the house as if giving a tour. That's Dad's office. We're not supposed to go in there, and that's the game room where I have my PlayStation. Maybe tomorrow we can play Mario Kart if you want. The guest room he led her to was larger than any space Lily could remember calling her own. A queen-sized bed with crisp white linens dominated the room, flanked by elegant nightstands with crystal lamps. A plush white carpet covered the floor, making Lily hesitate at the threshold. I'll get dirty marks everywhere, she said, looking down at her filthy feet and clothes. Tyler shrugged. Mom will just call the cleaning people. They come every Tuesday anyway. Jessica appeared behind them with a stack of folded clothes. These are some of Tyler's pajamas and a t-shirt that might fit you, she said, placing them on the bed. The bathroom is through that door. There are fresh towels and toiletries in the cabinet. Lily accepted the items with careful hands, as if they might dissolve at her touch. Thank you, Mrs. Blackwell. Please, call me Jessica. She hesitated, then added gently, would you like help with your bath? Your hair might need some special attention. For a moment, Lily's independent facade cracked, revealing the vulnerable child beneath. She nodded silently. I'll start the water. Tyler, time for you to get ready for bed, too. While Tyler reluctantly headed to his own room, Jessica led Lily to the guest bathroom, a marble and glass sanctuary with a deep, soaking tub. As the water ran, filling the room with steam, Jessica helped Lily untangle her matted blonde hair, applying liberal amounts of conditioner to work through the worst knots. How long have you been without a home, Lily? Jessica asked softly as she gently worked on a particularly difficult tangle. Since my dad went away, Lily replied, her eyes fixed on the swirling bathwater. We had an apartment near the docks. Not fancy, but it was okay. Then one day he didn't come home. What happened? Lily's shoulders tensed slightly. They said he had an accident at work, but he always told me if anything happened to him, I shouldn't trust anyone from his job, so when the social worker came, I ran away. Jessica paused, processing this information. You've been alone for 2 years? How have you survived? A hint of pride crossed Lily's face. I'm good at finding places to sleep, and people at the marina sometimes give me food. Mr. Gutierrez at the bait shop lets me clean up for a sandwich, and your husband gave me money sometimes. Robert never mentioned that, Jessica said, surprised. He didn't want the marina people to know. Said they might chase me away if they thought I was begging. Lily's voice softened. He's nice. He doesn't talk down to me like most grown-ups. Jessica smiled, seeing her husband through this child's eyes. Robert's compassion was one of the things she'd first fallen in love with, though it was a side of himself he rarely showed in business. The bath is ready. I'll leave you to soak. Just call if you need anything. When Jessica returned to the master bedroom, she found Robert sitting on the edge of their bed, phone in hand, his expression troubled. "I just got off the phone with Detective Rivera," he said without preamble. The device they removed from the yacht was sophisticated, designed to cause catastrophic steering failure once we reached open water and higher speeds. It would have seemed like a tragic accident. Jessica sat beside him, her hands trembling slightly. "And Lily's mention of Reynolds? They're investigating. Thomas Reynolds has always been cutthroat. But this—" Robert shook his head. "This is attempted murder. What did Lily's father do?" "She mentioned he had an accident at work after warning her not to trust his employers." Robert frowned. "She told you that? Did she say where he worked?" "No, just that they had an apartment near the docks." Jessica hesitated. "Robert, we need to contact Child Protective Services in the morning. As much as I admire what she did for us, we can't just keep a child who's been living on the streets." "I know," Robert agreed, though reluctance colored his tone. "But there's something about her story that bothers me. Why would her father warn her about his employers? And now someone tries to sabotage our yacht. It feels connected somehow." "You think her father might have worked for Reynolds?" "It's possible. I'm going to have our security team look into it first thing tomorrow." Robert ran a hand through his hair. "For now, let's get some sleep. It's been one hell of a night." Several hours later, Robert woke suddenly, unsure what had disturbed his sleep. Jessica lay peacefully beside him, but something felt off. He slipped out of bed and moved quietly to the hallway, checking first on Tyler, who was sound asleep clutching his favorite stuffed orca. When he reached the guest room, he found the door ajar and the bed empty, its covers barely disturbed. A momentary panic seized him. Had Lily run away? Then he noticed a thin strip of light coming from beneath his home office door at the end of the hall. Robert approached cautiously, easing the door open. Lily sat cross-legged on the floor in Tyler's oversized pajamas, surrounded by papers she'd pulled from his desk drawers. She looked up, startled, but not guilty. "I couldn't sleep," she said simply. "So, you decided to go through my files?" Robert kept his voice even, more curious than angry. Lily nodded toward a framed photo on the wall, a corporate gathering with Robert at the center, shaking hands with various business associates. "I was looking for a picture of him." "Who?" "The man who wanted to hurt you. Reynolds." She pointed to the pile of papers. "I found his name in these." Robert knelt beside her, examining what she'd discovered. She'd pulled out folders related to a lawsuit from 3 years ago. Reynolds Transport had sued Blackwell Logistics over alleged corporate espionage. The case had been dismissed for lack of evidence, but it had created bad blood between the companies. "How did you know to look for this?" Robert asked, increasingly intrigued by this unusual child. Lily's eyes, too old for her young face, met his directly. "My dad taught me to pay attention. He said information is power, and the people with secrets are the most dangerous." "Your father sounds like a wise man." Robert sat on the floor beside her. "What did he do for work, Lily?" She tensed, wariness returning to her posture. "He worked for a shipping company." "In their offices?" "Which company?" Lily hesitated, then reached for the photo on the wall. Her small finger pointed to a man standing slightly behind Thomas Reynolds, a middle-aged man with glasses and Lily's same blonde hair. "That's my dad," she said quietly. "David Walker. He was Mr. Reynolds's financial controller." Robert stared at the photo, recognition dawning. He remembered David Walker, a quiet, competent man who had been at several industry events. Walker had disappeared from the business scene a couple of years ago, but Robert had never heard why. "Your father worked for Reynolds Transport, and he had an accident?" Lily's expression hardened. "It wasn't an accident. My dad found out Mr. Reynolds was doing bad things with the company money. He was going to tell someone, but then—" Her voice faltered. "He told me if anything happened to him, I should find the flash drive he kept hidden in our apartment and keep it safe until I could find someone trustworthy." "A flash drive? Do you have it?" She nodded slowly. "It's hidden. Not here." Robert's mind raced. If what Lily was saying was true, the implications were staggering. Had Thomas Reynolds silenced David Walker to cover up financial crimes? And now, with the Asia-Pac contract threatening to put Reynolds Transport out of business, had he tried to eliminate Robert and his family? "Lily," Robert said carefully, "I think your father was a very brave man, and so are you." A tear slipped down her cheek, the first sign of vulnerability she'd shown all night. "I miss him." Robert gently gathered the papers, returning them to his desk. "Tomorrow we're going to talk to some people who can help us understand what happened to your father. But right now, you need sleep." He led her back to the guest room, making sure she was settled under the covers. As he turned to leave, Lily caught his sleeve. "Mr. Blackwell, they'll come looking for me if they know I'm here. The people who hurt my dad. No one's going to hurt you, Lily, I promise." Robert's voice carried absolute conviction. "You're safe now." As he closed her door, Robert knew he'd just made a promise he wasn't entirely sure he could keep, but he also knew he would do everything in his power to try. Back in his bedroom, he found Jessica awake, waiting for him. "Everything okay?" she asked. Robert sat on the edge of the bed. "Jess, I think we've stumbled into something much bigger than we realized. That girl isn't just some random street child. Her father worked for Thomas Reynolds, and I think he may have been silenced for threatening to expose financial fraud." Jessica sat up, fully alert now. "And you think that's connected to what happened at the marina?" "I'm almost certain of it. Reynolds has always been ruthless, but I never imagined he'd go this far." Robert's expression darkened. "He tried to kill us, Jess. All of us, including Tyler. What are we going to do? Go to the police?" "Yes, but carefully. If Reynolds was willing to arrange an accident for his financial controller and then try to do the same to us, he won't hesitate to come after Lily if he discovers she's with us and knows something." Jessica reached for his hand. "You want to protect her, don't you?" Robert challenged gently. "After what she did for us?" A long moment passed between them, a silent communication built on years of partnership. Finally, Jessica nodded. "We'll need to contact our lawyer first thing tomorrow. And security. I want the house system upgraded immediately." Robert smiled, feeling a rush of love for his wife. "So we're doing this. Taking responsibility for her." "For now," Jessica said, though her tone suggested she was already coming to terms with a more permanent arrangement. "At least until we understand what's really going on and can ensure she's safe." As dawn broke over Seattle, casting golden light across the sleeping city, the Blackwell family had unknowingly begun a transformation. In saving them from disaster, Lily Walker had set in motion events that would reshape not just her life, but theirs as well. And somewhere across the city, in a penthouse office overlooking the same waters, Thomas Reynolds was about to discover that his carefully laid plans had failed, and that the consequences would reach far beyond one thwarted sabotage attempt. Thomas Reynolds slammed his fist against his mahogany desk, rattling the crystal tumbler of bourbon he'd been nursing since receiving the call. "What do you mean, it failed? It was supposed to be foolproof." The man standing before him, Cole Maddox, head of Reynolds Transport's private security team, maintained his rigid posture. "Blackwell never took the yacht out. Someone warned him." "Who?" Reynolds demanded, his face flushing beneath his perfectly coiffed silver hair. At 58, Thomas Reynolds had built his company through ruthless determination and an absolute refusal to lose. The Asia-Pac contract was supposed to have been his crowning achievement, until Robert Blackwell swooped in with his innovative logistics solutions and cutting-edge technology. "We're still investigating," Maddox replied. "The harbor police and Coast Guard are involved now. They've identified the device." Reynolds drained his bourbon. "Can it be traced back to us?" "No. We used intermediaries, but there's something else." Maddox hesitated. "Blackwell had a child with him at the marina. Not his son. A girl, maybe 10 or 11. Street kid, by the looks of her. She was seen talking to him just before he decided to inspect the yacht." Reynolds set down his glass with deliberate care. "A street child. Description? Blonde, skinny. Witnesses say she's been hanging around the marina for months." The color drained from Reynolds' face. "Find her," he ordered, his voice suddenly cold. "Find her immediately." "Sir, with the authorities already involved, I don't care what it takes," Reynolds snapped. "That girl could be the Walker child. If she has her father's evidence and gets it to Blackwell—" Maddox nodded grimly. "I understand. I'll handle it personally." As Maddox left, Reynolds moved to the floor-to-ceiling windows of his downtown office. The Seattle skyline sparkled in the morning light, a view he'd fought his entire life to command. He wouldn't let it all crumble now, not because of David Walker's inconvenient conscience, and certainly not because of some street urchin who should have disappeared into the system 2 years ago. Reynolds reached for his phone, dialing a private number. "It's me," he said when the call connected. "We have a problem. The Walker girl is back." Morning at the Blackwell residence arrived with the aroma of bacon and pancakes wafting up from the kitchen. Lily woke disoriented, momentarily forgetting where she was. The plush mattress, the soft sheets, the warm sunlight streaming through designer curtains, none of it aligned with her reality of the past 2 years. The sound of excited chatter drew her from the bed. She found Tyler's t-shirt and sweatpants, still enormous on her small frame, and padded downstairs, following the voices to a gleaming chef's kitchen. "She's awake," Tyler announced when he spotted her hovering in the doorway. He sat at the breakfast bar, maple syrup dotting the corners of his mouth. "Mom made chocolate chip pancakes." Jessica turned from the stove, spatula in hand, and offered a warm smile. "Good morning, Lily. Did you sleep well?" Lily nodded, still cautious. Years on the streets had taught her that good things rarely lasted. "Where's Mr. Blackwell?" "In his office, making some calls." Jessica gestured to an empty stool beside Tyler. "Hungry?" Before Lily could answer, Robert entered the kitchen, phone in hand, his expression serious. "Detective Rivera and our attorney will be here at 10, he announced, then noticed Lily. His features softened immediately. "Good morning. How are you feeling?" "Fine," Lily replied automatically, the standard answer she gave to any adult inquiring about her welfare. Robert didn't look convinced but didn't press. "After breakfast, we need to talk about what happens next, but first," he produced a shopping bag from behind his back. "Jessica asked our housekeeper to pick these up this morning." Inside the bag, Lily found new clothes. Jeans, t-shirts, a hoodie, socks, and a pair of sturdy sneakers, all in her size. She stared at them, speechless. "We guessed on the sizes," Jessica explained, setting a plate of pancakes in front of her. "If they don't fit, we can exchange them." "Why are you doing this?" Lily finally asked, looking between the Blackwells. Robert sat beside her. "Because you saved our lives. Because you've been alone too long, and because I think you and your father deserve justice." Lily's fingers tightened around the bag. "You believe me about my dad?" "I do, and we're going to help you prove what happened." Robert's phone buzzed with an incoming call. "That's my security team. I need to take this." As he stepped away, Jessica poured orange juice for Lily. "Eat up. You'll need your strength today." By 10 o'clock, Lily had showered and changed into her new clothes. The jeans fit perfectly, and the sneakers, the first new shoes she could remember owning, felt strange but wonderful on her feet. She sat in Robert's home office, perched on the edge of a leather chair that dwarfed her small frame, listening as Detective Maria Rivera asked questions about the previous night. "And you're certain you heard them mention the name Reynolds?" the detective asked, her pen poised over her notepad. Lily nodded firmly. "Yes," the tall one said. "Reynolds will pay us when it's done. And you've never seen these men before?" "No, but—" Lily hesitated, glancing at Robert. "It's okay," he encouraged. "Tell Detective Rivera everything." Lily took a deep breath. "My dad worked for Mr. Reynolds, at Reynolds Transport. He was the money person." "Financial controller," Robert clarified. "And your father is—" Rivera prompted gently. "Gone," Lily said, her voice small but steady. "They said it was an accident at work. But my dad told me if anything happened to him, it wouldn't be an accident." Detective Rivera's expression remained professional, but her eyes sharpened. "When was this, Lily?" 2 years ago, June 15th. The date came immediately, permanently etched in her memory. Rivera made a note. "And you've been on your own since then?" "I ran away from the social worker. My dad said not to trust anyone from his work, and she said she was going to place me with a family that Mr. Reynolds recommended." Lily's voice hardened. "I wasn't stupid." Rivera exchanged glances with Robert and Michael Chen, the Blackwell family attorney, who sat quietly observing. "Lily," Rivera said carefully, "did your father leave you anything?" "Any evidence of what he suspected at Reynolds Transport?" Lily's gaze dropped to her new sneakers. "He had a flash drive. He showed me where it was hidden in our apartment. The day after he was gone, I went back and got it before they cleared out our things." Robert leaned forward. "Do you still have it?" She nodded. "Hidden. Not far from the marina." "We need that flash drive," Chen spoke for the first time. "If it contains evidence of financial misconduct by Reynolds, it could establish motive." "I'll take you to get it," Robert offered. "Today." Detective Rivera closed her notebook. "Mr. Blackwell, may I speak with you privately for a moment?" As the adult stepped into the hallway, Tyler slipped into the office, eyeing the detective's departure before approaching Lily. "Are you in trouble?" he asked, his voice hushed with excitement. Lily shook her head. "I don't think so. Are you going to stay with us? Mom's been making calls all morning about getting you new things." The question caught Lily off guard. The possibility of staying, of having a real home again, seemed too fragile to acknowledge. "I don't know." Tyler plopped into his father's desk chair, spinning it idly. "I hope you stay. It's boring being an only kid." Before Lily could respond, Robert returned with Rivera and Chen. "Lily," Robert said, his voice gentle but serious, "Detective Rivera thinks it's best if you stay with us for now. There's concern that if Reynolds was behind the yacht sabotage, and if he discovers you're alive and have evidence against him, you might be in danger. We'll need a court order for temporary custody," Chen added. "Given the circumstances, I don't anticipate any issues." Lily looked between them, trying to process this development. "You want me to stay here?" "If that's okay with you," Jessica said from the doorway, where she'd been listening. "We have plenty of room, and Tyler already considers you his new best friend. Plus, we can protect you," Robert added. "My security team is upgrading our home system today, and we'll have personnel watching the house." It was all happening so fast. After 2 years of survival mode, of never trusting, never settling, never allowing herself to hope for more than a dry place to sleep and enough food to quiet her hunger, Lily found herself overwhelmed by the Blackwells' offer. "What about school?" she finally asked, surprising even herself with the question. Jessica smiled. "We'll figure that out, one step at a time." Detective Rivera checked her watch. "I need to get back to the station. Mr. Blackwell, I'll have officers accompany you and Lily to retrieve the flash drive. In the meantime, keep a low profile. If Reynolds is behind this, he won't be happy his plan failed." After Rivera left, Chen remained to discuss the legal aspects of temporary guardianship. As the adults talked in the living room, Lily wandered onto the back terrace overlooking Puget Sound. The view was breathtaking. Ferries crisscrossing the water, the Olympic Mountains rising in the distance, Seattle's skyline to the south. "Pretty cool, huh?" Tyler had followed her outside, a soccer ball tucked under his arm. "When the weather's nice, Dad takes his boat out and we go whale watching." "His boat," Lily repeated. "The one that was sabotaged." Tyler nodded solemnly. "Mom explained it to me this morning. She said someone tried to hurt Dad's boat, but you saved us." He studied her with curious eyes. "How did you know?" "I was in the right place at the right time," Lily said, unwilling to delve into the darker aspects of her life on the streets. "Just lucky, I guess." "No," Tyler disagreed with the certainty of a child. "It wasn't luck. Dad says things happen for a reason." He bounced his soccer ball on the terrace. "Want to play?" "I have an extra pair of goals in the yard." Lily hesitated, then nodded. It had been years since she'd played any game that didn't involve running from security guards or finding her next meal. The simple normality of kicking a ball around a manicured lawn seemed like a luxury beyond imagining. As they played, Lily gradually relaxed, even laughing when she managed to score past Tyler's enthusiastic but uncoordinated goalkeeping. For a few precious minutes, she was just a kid again, not a homeless orphan, not a witness to potential corporate sabotage, just a girl playing soccer on a beautiful day. Robert watched from the terrace, a strange tightness in his chest. In the harsh light of day, the reality of what they were undertaking was sinking in. They were essentially adopting a street child, one who likely carried evidence that could bring down one of Seattle's most powerful businessmen. The risks were enormous. Yet watching Lily with Tyler, seeing the guarded joy on her face as she momentarily forgot her troubles, Robert knew they'd made the right decision. Whatever came next, they would face it together. Jessica joined him, slipping her arm through his. "Chen thinks we should have temporary custody approved by tomorrow. He's expediting everything." "Good. The sooner we establish legal guardianship, the better protected she'll be." Robert turned to his wife. "Are you really okay with this? It's a huge responsibility, taking in a child who's been through what she has." Jessica's gaze followed the children as they chased the ball across the lawn. "Do you remember what you said to me when we were dating? When you were still driving that beat-up Toyota and living in that awful apartment in Belltown?" Robert smiled at the memory. "I said a lot of things back then, trying to impress you. You told me that when you made your fortune, you wouldn't be one of those people who forgot where they came from. You said success meant nothing if you couldn't use it to help others." She squeezed his arm. "That's the man I married, and that's why we're going to help Lily, not just because she saved us, but because it's the right thing to do." Robert kissed her forehead, grateful for her understanding. "We'll need to be careful. Reynolds won't take this lying down, especially if what Lily says about her father is true." "Then we'll be careful," Jessica said firmly. "But we won't be intimidated." Their conversation was interrupted by Robert's phone. The caller ID showed it was Detective Rivera. "Blackwell," he answered. Rivera's voice was tense. "Mr. Blackwell, we've received information that Thomas Reynolds has hired private investigators to locate a blonde girl seen at the marina last night. I'm sending officers to your residence now. Don't let Lily out of your sight." Robert's blood ran cold as he scanned the yard, suddenly seeing potential threats in every shadow. "Understood. We'll be waiting." As he ended the call, the children's laughter drifted up from the lawn, a sound so innocent amid the growing storm. Robert knew that whatever happiness they'd found this morning was merely the calm before a tempest of Reynolds' making. The game was about to become much more dangerous. The security team arrived within 20 minutes, 3 stone-faced professionals led by Marcus Gaines, a former Navy SEAL whom Robert had hired years ago to head Blackwell Logistics' corporate security. As they efficiently swept the property and installed additional surveillance equipment, Robert gathered his family in his office, away from the floor-to-ceiling windows that suddenly seemed too exposed. "Reynolds knows Lily is alive," Robert explained, keeping his voice calm for the children's sake. "And he's looking for her." Tyler shifted closer to Lily on the leather sofa, unconsciously protective. "Is the bad man going to try to hurt her?" Jessica placed a reassuring hand on her son's shoulder. "No, honey. That's why these security people are here, to make sure everyone stays safe." Lily had gone very still, her expression closed off in a way that reminded Robert how quickly children could retreat behind emotional walls when frightened. She'd been surviving on her own for 2 years. The instinct to protect herself was deeply ingrained. "Lily," Robert said gently, "we still need to retrieve that flash drive. It's our best chance of stopping Reynolds for good." She nodded, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "It's under the marina, in the maintenance tunnels. The service corridors beneath the docks?" Robert was surprised. "How did you access those?" "There's a broken grate behind the bait shop. I found it my first week there." A hint of pride crept into her voice. "Nobody notices if you're small enough. It's dry down there and warm from the electrical systems. Good place to sleep when it rains." Jessica and Robert exchanged pained glances, the reality of Lily's recent life hitting them anew. Marcus Gaines entered the office after completing his initial assessment. "The property is secure, Mr. Blackwell. I've posted men at all access points and activated the expanded security system." Robert introduced him to Lily. "Marcus, this is Lily Walker. She's under our protection now." Gaines nodded respectfully to the child. "Ms. Walker." His formal address brought a fleeting smile to Lily's face. "Nobody's ever called me Mins before." "Detective Rivera mentioned a flash drive we need to recover," Robert continued. "It's hidden beneath Shill's Hole Marina, in the maintenance tunnels." Gaines frowned. "Those tunnels run the entire length of the marina, a maze of electrical conduits, water pipes, and structural supports. Without knowing the exact location, it could take days to search." "I know exactly where it is," Lily stated firmly, "but I have to be the one to get it. I made a special hiding place." "Out of the question," Jessica interjected. "It's too dangerous for you to go back there now." "With respect, Mrs. Blackwell," Gaines said, "if Reynolds has people looking for her, the marina is the last place she should be. We can send a team with detailed instructions." Lily shook her head stubbornly. "You won't find it. I made sure no one could." Robert considered their options. The flash drive was crucial, possibly their only leverage against Reynolds, but Lily's safety had to be the priority. "What if we went at night?" he suggested. "Under cover of darkness, with Marcus's team providing security. A quick in-and-out operation." Jessica looked alarmed. "Robert, you can't seriously be considering taking her back there." "I don't like it either," he admitted. "But Lily's right. If she's the only one who knows where this hiding place is, we need her. And the sooner we secure that evidence, the sooner we can end this threat." Gaines rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "We could create a diversion. Make it appear that we're strengthening security here at the house while secretly extracting the flash drive. If Reynolds has people watching, they'll be focused on this location." After much debate, a plan was formed. Robert would take Lily to the marina at midnight, accompanied by Gaines and 2 of his most trusted operatives. Jessica and Tyler would remain at the house with the rest of the security team, maintaining normal patterns to avoid arousing suspicion. As evening approached, the tension in the house was palpable. Tyler, picking up on the adult's anxiety, became unusually quiet. At dinner, he pushed his food around his plate, occasionally glancing at Lily with worried eyes. "Will you come back?" he finally asked her, as Jessica cleared the dishes. "After you get your special thing?" Lily looked startled by the question. I guess so, if your parents still want me here." "Of course we do," Jessica assured her, squeezing her thin shoulder as she passed. "This is your home now for as long as you need it to be." The simple statement brought unexpected tears to Lily's eyes. She blinked them away quickly, but not before Robert noticed. In just 24 hours, this brave, resourceful child had begun to matter deeply to all of them. By 11:30, preparations were complete. Lily had changed into dark clothing provided by the security team, and Robert had traded his business attire for black jeans and a navy pullover. Gaines ran through the plan one final time in the kitchen, using a map of the marina displayed on his tablet. "We'll approach from the north entrance, using the service road that runs behind the maintenance buildings. Minimal lighting there, and it keeps us away from the main parking areas where we might be spotted." His finger traced the route. "Once inside, Lily directs us to the access point. 2 of my men will secure the perimeter while I accompany you both below." Jessica, who had been listening with growing apprehension, pulled Robert aside before they left. "Promise me you'll be careful," she whispered, clutching his hands. "Both of you." "We will," he assured her. "We'll be back before you know it." The drive to the marina was conducted in tense silence, Gaines's SUV taking an intentionally circuitous route to identify any potential tails. Lily sat in the back seat, her face pale but determined in the glow of passing streetlights. Robert noticed she was wearing the new sneakers Jessica had bought her, the price tags hastily removed just hours ago. Such a small detail, yet it underscored the bizarre circumstances that had brought this child into their lives. The marina was eerily quiet when they arrived, the usual daytime bustle of boaters and tourists, replaced by the gentle lapping of waves against the docks and the occasional creak of moored vessels. Gaines parked in a shadowy area behind the maintenance shed, killing the engine but leaving his security team connected via discreet earpieces. "All clear so far," he reported in a low voice. "Let's move." They made their way silently along the perimeter of the marina, staying close to the buildings and away from the sparse lighting. Lily led them with surprising confidence, navigating the familiar territory without hesitation. When they reached the back of the bait shop, closed at this hour, she pointed to a ventilation grate partially concealed by a stack of empty crates. "There," she whispered. "That's how I get in." Gaines inspected the grate, which was indeed loose on one side, creating an opening just large enough for a child to slip through. "Too small for adults," he concluded. "We'll need to find another access point." "There's a maintenance door around the corner," Lily informed them. "The lock is broken. The marina guys know about it but never fixed it because they're lazy." Sure enough, the door she indicated opened with a gentle push, revealing a narrow stairway leading down into darkness. Gaines produced 3 small flashlights, handing one each to Robert and Lily. "Stay close," he instructed as they descended into the tunnels. The maintenance level beneath the marina was a low-ceilinged labyrinth of concrete passages, humming electrical panels, and exposed pipes. The air was warm and stale, tinged with the sense of salt water, oil, and mildew. Robert had to stoop slightly to avoid hitting his head, while Lily moved with the ease of familiarity. "This way," she directed, turning down a passage that ran directly beneath the main docks. They walked for several minutes, taking multiple turns that left Robert completely disoriented. He marveled at Lily's ability to navigate this underground maze, a skill born of necessity and survival. Finally, she stopped before what appeared to be an ordinary electrical junction box mounted on the wall. "Here," she said, reaching up to the metal cabinet. Instead of opening the front panel, however, Lily carefully felt along the bottom edge until her fingers found a small gap. From this hidden space, she extracted a waterproof pouch secured with duct tape. "My dad taught me to hide important things where no one would think to look," she explained, a hint of pride in her voice. "Right in plain sight, but not in the obvious place." She handed the pouch to Robert, who opened it carefully. Inside was a nondescript black flash drive, unremarkable in appearance but potentially explosive in content. "You've kept this safe all this time," Robert said, respect evident in his tone. "Your father would be proud." A shadow of grief crossed Lily's face. "He made me promise. Said it was evidence that could hurt bad people if it got to the right person." She looked up at Robert with sudden intensity. "Are you the right person?" The question caught him off guard with its directness and underlying complexity. "I hope so, Lily. I'll certainly try to be." Gaines's voice interrupted the moment. "We need to move. My team outside reports a security patrol making rounds earlier than scheduled." They retraced their steps quickly, emerging from the maintenance door just as a beam of light swept across the far end of the building. Gaines gestured for them to freeze, pressing back against the wall as a marina security guard passed by, his flashlight illuminating the path ahead of him. Once the guard had moved on, they made their swift, silent way back to the SUV. Robert felt the tension in his shoulders ease only when they were driving away from the marina, the flash drive secured in his pocket. "Mission accomplished," Gaines commented, allowing himself a slight smile as he navigated the empty streets. "Now we find out what's on that drive." Back at the house, Jessica was waiting anxiously in the kitchen, relief washing over her face as they entered. "Thank God you're back. Any problems?" "Smooth as silk," Robert assured her, producing the flash drive. "Thanks to Lily's excellent navigation skills." Tyler, who had apparently convinced his mother to let him stay up, appeared in the doorway in Star Wars pajamas. "Did you get the secret thing?" he asked excitedly. Lily nodded, some of her usual reserve melting at his enthusiasm. "Mission accomplished?" she echoed Gaines's words with a hint of a smile. As Jessica ushered the children upstairs to bed, Tyler chattering incessantly about how cool it must have been to go on a secret night mission, Robert took the flash drive to his office. Gaines followed, closing the door behind them. "We should check the contents immediately," the security chief advised. "If this does contain evidence against Reynolds, we need to know exactly what we're dealing with." Robert nodded, inserting the drive into his computer. A folder appeared containing dozens of PDF files, each labeled with dates spanning a 3-month period 2 years earlier. He opened the first document and found himself looking at financial statements from Reynolds Transport, but with 2 columns of figures side by side, one labeled reported and the other actual. "Balance sheet fraud," Robert murmured, scanning the numbers, and on a massive scale. As they examined more files, the scope of the deception became clear. Thomas Reynolds had been systematically falsifying his company's financial reports, inflating revenues, and hiding substantial debts to maintain the appearance of a thriving business. There were also documents revealing illegal kickbacks from subcontractors and evidence of tax evasion amounting to millions. "This is why he went after you," Gaines concluded. "Your Asia-Pac contract would have pushed Reynolds Transport to the brink financially. If they lost that competitive edge while already struggling, they'd collapse," Robert finished, "and all of this would likely come to light in the resulting financial scrutiny." He leaned back in his chair, processing the implications. David Walker discovered this fraud and compiled the evidence. Reynolds must have found out he was gathering this information and arranged an accident to silence him, Gaines added grimly. "Then when his daughter surfaced at the marina and was seen talking to you, he tried to eliminate us too." Robert closed the files, a cold anger settling in his chest. David Walker was trying to do the right thing, and it cost him everything. His daughter has been living on the streets for 2 years because of Reynolds' greed. "What's our next move?" Gaines asked. Robert considered their options. "We take this to Detective Rivera first thing tomorrow. This evidence, combined with what happened at the marina, should be enough for an arrest warrant." He removed the flash drive, securing it in his wall safe. "In the meantime, maintain full security protocols. Reynolds doesn't know we have this yet, but he's desperate enough to try something else." Upstairs, Jessica was tucking Lily into the guest bed that was rapidly becoming hers. The girl seemed different after the night's expedition, more relaxed, as if retrieving the flash drive had lifted a weight from her small shoulders. "Your dad sounds like he was a very smart man," Jessica said, smoothing the covers. "The way he taught you to hide things, to be observant." Lily nodded, a rare smile softening her features. "He was the smartest person I knew. He could do math in his head super fast. And he was funny too. He used to make up silly songs about numbers." It was the most Lily had shared about her father, and Jessica recognized the significance of this small opening. "I wish I could have met him. He would have liked you," Lily said with childlike certainty. "And Mr. Blackwell too. Dad always said we should judge people by how they act when no one important is watching." She fingered the edge of the blanket, her voice growing quieter. "That's why I trusted Mr. Blackwell. I saw him help an old man at the marina once when no one was looking. The man dropped his groceries and Mr. Blackwell stopped to pick everything up and carried the bags to his boat." Jessica smiled, touched by this insight into how her husband appeared through a child's observant eyes. "That sounds like Robert." Lily's next question came hesitantly. "What happens now with the flash drive?" "Robert will make sure it gets to the right people. The police will handle it from there." Jessica tucked a strand of hair behind Lily's ear, a maternal gesture that came naturally. "What's important is that you're safe now. That's all you need to worry about." And I can really stay? Even after all this is over? The vulnerability in the question pierced Jessica's heart. Yes, Lily. For as long as you want. Downstairs, Robert had just finished briefing their attorney over the phone when he received an urgent text from Detective Rivera. Reynolds knows the flash drive exists. Source inside his company says he's frantic to find it. Stay secure. Meeting you at 8 a.m. tomorrow. The message confirmed what Robert already suspected. They were sitting on evidence that could destroy Thomas Reynolds, and he wouldn't go down without a fight. But now, with Lily's treasured flash drive secured and the authorities involved, Robert finally felt they had the upper hand. As he prepared to join Jessica upstairs, Robert paused at Tyler's room, finding his son still awake despite the late hour. "Dad," Tyler whispered as Robert looked in, "is Lily going to be my sister now?" The question was so direct, so hopeful, that Robert found himself momentarily speechless. "Would you like that?" he finally asked. Tyler nodded emphatically. "She's really cool. And brave. And she doesn't think my dinosaur collection is stupid like the kids at school." Robert smiled, sitting on the edge of the bed. "We're going to make sure Lily has a safe home with us for as long as she needs. The rest, well, we'll see how things develop. I hope she stays forever," Tyler declared with the absolute conviction of childhood. "She belongs with us now." As Robert turned out the light and headed to the master bedroom, he found himself increasingly agreeing with his son's assessment. In just 2 days, Lily Walker had fundamentally altered their family dynamic, bringing out protective instincts in Tyler, awakening Jessica's natural nurturing tendencies, and reminding Robert himself of values beyond business success. Whatever happened with Reynolds and the evidence, one thing was becoming clear. The Blackwell family would never be the same again. And somehow, that felt exactly right. Thomas Reynolds paced his penthouse office, dawn breaking over Seattle through the floor-to-ceiling windows. He hadn't slept all night, the circles under his eyes and rumpled shirt, so uncharacteristic for a man known for his impeccable appearance, betrayed his mounting desperation. "You're telling me," he said into his phone, voice dangerously low, "that not only did the yacht operation fail, but the Walker girl is now staying with the Blackwells, and they went to the marina last night." He slammed his fist against his desk. "Find out what they retrieved. That girl's father compiled evidence against me. If she had it all this time and has now given it to Blackwell—" The voice on the other end spoke briefly. "I don't care what it takes," Reynolds snapped. "If that evidence surfaces, we're finished, all of us." He ended the call abruptly, then buzzed his assistant. "Get me Alan Prescott on the phone." Immediately. Minutes later, he was speaking with his longtime attorney. "Alan, we have a situation that requires immediate attention. The Walker evidence has resurfaced." He listened briefly, his expression darkening. "No, I don't know exactly what documents are involved, but David was in a position to access everything." Another pause. "Yes, including those transactions." Reynolds moved to his private bar, pouring himself a scotch despite the early hour. "I need options, Alan. Legal options to contain this situation." He took a long swallow of the amber liquid. "And if legal options are insufficient, I need to know what contingencies we can put in place." At the Blackwell residence, the day began early. Detective Rivera arrived at 8 o'clock sharp, accompanied by a cybercrime specialist from the Seattle Police Department. Robert led them to his office, where he'd prepared copies of the most damning documents from the flash drive. "This is extraordinary," Rivera said, examining the financial statements. Walker documented everything methodically. "These falsified financial reports, the evidence of tax evasion, the kickback schemes, it's all here." The cybercrime specialist nodded in agreement. "The metadata is intact too, confirming these documents originated within Reynolds Transport Systems. No signs of tampering or fabrication." "So you have enough for an arrest warrant?" Robert asked. "More than enough," Rivera confirmed. "I'll be taking this directly to the district attorney. With the evidence of the yacht sabotage, and now these financial crimes, Reynolds won't be able to buy his way out of this one." As they discussed next steps, Jessica appeared in the doorway. "Robert, Lily's asking if she needs to speak with the detective again." Rivera smiled. "Not right now. The documentation speaks for itself. But I would like to talk with her about her father, understand more about when he first discovered these discrepancies, and what he told her. It might help us build an even stronger case." "She's having breakfast with Tyler," Jessica said. "I'll bring her in when they're finished." In the kitchen, Lily sat at the breakfast bar beside Tyler. who was enthusiastically explaining the rules of his favorite video game between mouthfuls of cereal. She nodded occasionally, but her attention was clearly divided, her gaze drifting repeatedly toward Robert's office. "Are you worried?" Tyler asked suddenly, displaying that uncanny perceptiveness children sometimes possess. Lily shrugged. "A little. What if they don't believe the stuff on the flash drive?" "Dad says it's solid evidence," Tyler declared with complete faith in his father's assessment. "And now the bad man will go to jail." "It's not that simple," Lily replied, her voice carrying the weariness of someone who had learned hard truths too young. "Rich people like Mr. Reynolds don't always get in trouble, even when they do bad things." Tyler considered this with a frown. "That's not fair." "A lot of things aren't fair," Lily said simply, but without bitterness, just stating a fact she'd long ago accepted. Jessica, who had been listening from the doorway, felt her heart constrict at the exchange. She approached the breakfast bar, placing a gentle hand on Lily's shoulder. "Detective Rivera would like to talk with you a bit more about your father, if you're up for it." Lily nodded, sliding off the stool. "I want to help." "Can I come too?" Tyler asked eagerly. "Not this time, buddy," Jessica replied. "Why don't you get dressed? Marcus said he'd teach you some basic self-defense moves this morning." This distraction worked perfectly, sending Tyler racing upstairs while Jessica escorted Lily to Robert's office. Inside, Detective Rivera greeted the girl warmly, putting her at ease before beginning her questions. "Lily, can you tell me when your father first seemed concerned about his work at Reynolds Transport?" Lily's brow furrowed in concentration. "It was after Christmas 2 years ago. He started bringing work home and staying up late looking at numbers on his computer. He seemed worried all the time." "Did he tell you what he was worried about?" "Not at first. But then one night, I heard him on the phone with someone. He was really upset, saying that Mr. Reynolds was cooking the books and that it was illegal." Lily's voice grew quieter. "After that call, he sat me down and said that he might have to do something dangerous, but it was the right thing to do." "That's when he showed you where he was hiding the flash drive?" Rivera prompted gently. Lily nodded. "He said if anything happened to him, I should take it and find someone trustworthy to give it to, someone not connected to Reynolds Transport." "Did he report his concerns to anyone official? The SEC, perhaps, or the police?" "I don't know. But the night before he—" Lily swallowed hard. "The night before he was gone, he said he had a meeting the next day that would change everything. He seemed scared but determined." Rivera made careful notes. "This timeline matches perfectly with what we know. David Walker was reported missing after failing to arrive at work on June 15th. His body was discovered 2 days later, in what was ruled an accidental fall at a construction site near the harbor." Robert leaned forward. "Given what we know now, that accident needs to be reinvestigated." "Already in progress," Rivera assured him. "I've requested the case be reopened based on new evidence." The meeting continued for another hour, with Lily providing additional details about her father's final weeks. Throughout, she maintained a composure that was both impressive and heartbreaking for someone so young. When Rivera finally concluded her questions, Lily looked physically drained but somehow lighter, as if sharing her father's story had eased a burden she'd carried alone for too long. "You did great," Robert told her, as Rivera packed up her files. "Your dad would be so proud of you." A ghost of a smile touched Lily's lips. "He always said the truth matters more than anything." Rivera paused at the door. "I'm heading straight to the district attorney. By this afternoon, we should have arrest warrants for Reynolds and several of his executives. I'll keep you updated." She knelt to Lily's eye level. "Thank you for your courage, Lily. You've done a remarkable thing carrying your father's truth all this time." After the detective left, Robert received a call from Marcus Gaines, who had been monitoring security from the guest house. "Sir, I've been informed that Thomas Reynolds has scheduled an emergency press conference for noon today at Reynolds Transport headquarters. Our sources indicate he may be planning to leave the country immediately afterward. His private jet filed a flight plan to the Cayman Islands. He's running," Robert concluded. "He must suspect we have the evidence. Should we alert Detective Rivera?" "Immediately, and increase security here. If Reynolds is desperate enough to flee, he might try something drastic before he goes." The morning passed in tense anticipation. Robert contacted his executive team at Blackwell Logistics, briefing them on the situation and instructing them to prepare for possible media attention. Jessica, meanwhile, tried to maintain a sense of normalcy for the children, taking them to the indoor pool where Tyler gleefully taught Lily to dive. At noon, They gathered in the living room to watch Reynolds' press conference on the large television. The Reynolds Transport CEO appeared before a forest of microphones, looking haggard but defiant in an impeccably tailored suit. "I've called this press conference to address malicious rumors circulating about Reynolds Transport, and myself personally," he began, his voice steady despite the visible strain on his face. "These allegations of financial impropriety are categorically false, a smear campaign orchestrated by competitors who couldn't defeat us fairly in the marketplace." Robert scoffed at the audacity. "He's trying to get ahead of the story." Reynolds continued, his expression hardening. "In particular, I must address the actions of Robert Blackwell, CEO of Blackwell Logistics, who has engaged in corporate espionage against my company following his unethical acquisition of the Asia-Pac contract." "He's blaming me," Robert said incredulously. "That's his strategy?" "Furthermore," Reynolds went on, "Blackwell has taken custody of a minor child without proper legal authority, a vulnerable girl he's using as a pawn in his vendetta against me and my company." Jessica gasped. How dare he bring Lily into this? On screen, Reynolds adopted a concerned expression. "I call upon the proper authorities to investigate Blackwell's irregular guardianship of this child, as well as his possession of falsified corporate documents he's using to attack a Seattle business institution. Thank you." With that, he strode from the podium, ignoring the shouted questions from reporters. Robert immediately called Detective Rivera. "Did you see that?" he demanded when she answered. "I did," she replied grimly. "He's desperate, but it won't work. The arrest warrant was approved 20 minutes ago. Officers are on their way to Reynolds Transport now. He won't make it to that private jet. What about his accusations against us regarding Lily? Your attorney filed the emergency guardianship papers yesterday, and a judge approved them this morning. You're Lily's legal temporary guardians, with all proper documentation in place. Reynolds is just throwing mud hoping something sticks." Robert relayed this information to Jessica, who had taken the children upstairs away from the television. "Rivera says Reynolds will be in custody within the hour. It's almost over." "Thank God," Jessica breathed. "How's Lily handling Reynolds' accusations?" "She didn't see that part, and I don't think we need to tell her. She's been through enough." They were interrupted by the chiming of the security system. Marcus Gaines's voice came through the intercom. "Mr. Blackwell, there's a Sarah Reynolds at the gate requesting to see you. Thomas Reynolds' wife." Robert and Jessica exchanged startled glances. "Reynolds' wife? What could she possibly want?" "She says it's urgent and concerns Lily. She's alone, and our security scan shows she's not armed." After a brief discussion, they decided to allow her in, but with security present and the children kept upstairs. Robert met Sarah Reynolds in the formal living room, where she sat perched tensely on the edge of a sofa, looking nothing like the confident socialite who graced Seattle charity events. "Thank you for seeing me," she began, her voice tight with stress. "I know how this must look, given what Thomas has done." "Why are you here, Mrs. Reynolds?" Robert asked directly. Sarah clasped her hands in her lap. "I've come about David Walker's daughter. I've only just learned she's alive and with your family. What is your interest in Lily?" Sarah hesitated, then straightened her shoulders. "I tried to help David, Mr. Blackwell. When he discovered what Thomas was doing, he came to me first, believing I might convince my husband to stop the fraud and come clean. I wanted to help, I truly did, but Thomas found out we'd spoken." Her voice faltered. "After what happened to David, I tried to find his daughter. I wanted to make sure she was safe, to help her somehow, but she had vanished." Robert studied her skeptically. "Why should I believe you?" Sarah reached into her handbag and extracted a sealed envelope. "Because I have this. It's a letter David wrote to me the day before he disappeared, detailing his intentions to go to the authorities. I've kept it hidden from Thomas all this time." She extended the envelope to Robert. "It corroborates everything on the flash drive." Robert accepted the envelope cautiously. "If you knew about the fraud, why didn't you come forward?" Sarah's composure cracked, tears welling in her eyes. "Fear. Shame. The knowledge that it would destroy my family. I've been married to Thomas for 30 years, Mr. Blackwell. We built that company together." She wiped at her tears. "But I can't be silent anymore. Not after what he tried to do to your family. Not after what he did to David." Their conversation was interrupted by Marcus Gaines, who entered with an urgent update. "Sir, Detective Rivera just called. Reynolds wasn't at his office when police arrived. He's missing." The news sent a chill through the room. Sarah paled visibly. If he's evaded arrest, he'll be desperate. You need to be extremely careful. As if summoned by her warning, the security system abruptly went silent, all lights on the control panel blinking out simultaneously. The system's been compromised, Gaines said sharply, drawing his weapon. Sir, get upstairs with your family now. Robert pulled Sarah Reynolds to her feet. Come with me. You may not be safe either. They rushed upstairs to find Jessica already gathering the children in the master bedroom, the home's designated safe room with reinforced doors and windows. Security breach, Robert explained tersely as they entered. Reynolds is missing and our system just went down. Lily's face drained of color. He's coming for me, isn't he? Before anyone could respond, they heard the distinctive sound of breaking glass from the floor below, followed by heavy footsteps. Gaines positioned himself at the bedroom door, weapon ready. I've triggered the silent alarm. Police are on their way. Stay back, away from the door. Tyler clung to Jessica, while Lily stood frozen, her small body rigid with fear. Sarah Reynolds stepped forward, placing herself protectively near the child, a gesture that spoke volumes. Tense minutes passed, the silence broken only by the sound of movement downstairs. Then came a voice, Thomas Reynolds, calling up the staircase. I know you're up there, Blackwell. With my wife, apparently. His tone was dangerously unhinged. All I want is the flash drive and the Walker girl. Give them to me and this ends peacefully. It's over, Reynolds, Robert called back. The police have the evidence. They're on their way here now. Then I have nothing to lose, do I? The sound of breaking objects punctuated his words. I built an empire. I won't let it be destroyed by a dead accountant's brat and a logistics upstart. The situation was deteriorating rapidly. Reynolds was clearly unstable, and there was no telling what he might do before the police arrived. But as the adults exchanged worried glances, Lily stepped forward. Let me talk to him, she said, her voice small but determined. Absolutely not, Jessica responded immediately. He wants me, Lily insisted. Maybe I can distract him until the police come. It's too dangerous, Robert said firmly, but Lily's expression had changed, a resolve beyond her years hardening her features. My dad died trying to stop him. I'm not afraid. Before anyone could stop her, she darted to the bedroom door. Gaines, caught off guard by the child's sudden movement, reached for her but missed. Lily slipped past him and stood at the top of the staircase, visible to Reynolds below. Mr. Reynolds, she called, her voice echoing in the sudden silence. I'm here. Reynolds stood in the foyer, a golf club from Robert's collection in his hands. He looked up, his expression shifting from rage to triumph at the sight of the small girl. Lily Walker, he said, a disturbing smile spreading across his face. The ghost who wouldn't disappear. I know what you did to my dad, Lily stated simply, her voice unwavering. He knew you were stealing money and lying about your company. He was going to tell everyone. Your father was a naive fool who didn't understand business realities, Reynolds snarled. He could have been rich if he just kept his mouth shut. He wasn't like you, Lily replied. He believed in the truth. Reynolds laughed harshly. And where did that get him? While you've been scrounging in the streets, I've been living in luxury. Not anymore, came a new voice from behind Reynolds. Detective Rivera stood in the doorway, flanked by uniformed officers with weapons drawn. Thomas Reynolds, you're under arrest for financial fraud, tax evasion, and attempted murder. Reynolds whirled, his face contorting with rage. For a terrifying moment, it seemed he might attack the officers. Then, as quickly as it had appeared, the fight drained from him. The golf club clattered to the floor as his shoulders slumped in defeat. As the officers handcuffed Reynolds and recited his rights, Sarah Reynolds emerged from the bedroom, moving to stand beside Lily on the staircase. There was a silent acknowledgement between them, the wife who had been too afraid to act, and the child who had been brave enough to carry her father's truth forward. I'm sorry, Sarah said softly to Lily. I should have done more to help your father. Lily looked up at her, wisdom beyond her years in her clear blue eyes. You're helping now. That's what matters. Detective Rivera approached after Reynolds had been escorted to a waiting police car. That was incredibly brave, Lily, she said, but also very dangerous. Please don't do anything like that again. Is it really over? Robert asked, one arm protectively around Jessica's shoulders, the other hand resting on Tyler's head. It's over, Rivera confirmed. With the evidence from the flash drive, Sarah Reynolds' testimony, and the attempted break-in here today, he'll be facing charges that will keep him in prison for decades. She smiled at Lily. Your father's truth finally came to light. As the police completed their work and the shattered calm of the Blackwell home gradually restored itself, a new feeling began to emerge. Not just relief that the danger had passed, but a sense of justice served and a path forward clearing. Sarah Reynolds, preparing to leave with the detective to give her formal statement, paused before Lily. "If you'd allow it, I'd like to be part of your life going forward. Not to replace anyone, but perhaps to help make amends in some small way." Lily considered this with characteristic thoughtfulness. "I'd like that," she finally said. "My dad always told me people deserve second chances." As sunset painted the Seattle skyline in shades of gold and crimson, the Blackwell family gathered on their terrace, the day's traumatic events giving way to a quiet evening of healing. Tyler had already bounced back with childlike resilience, excitedly planning activities to show Lily, now that the bad guy is gone forever. Jessica watched her son and this brave girl, who had saved them in more ways than one, a decision crystallizing in her mind. She turned to Robert, finding him already looking at her with the same certainty in his eyes. "We should make it permanent," she said softly. "The guardianship, if she wants to stay." Robert nodded, a weight lifting from his shoulders. "I was thinking the same thing. She belongs here, with us." The legal process would take time. There would be interviews and home studies, paperwork and court appearances. But as Lily's laughter joined Tyler's in the gathering dusk, the future seemed suddenly brilliantly clear. A new family forged not by blood, but by courage, truth, and the remarkable resilience of a child who had refused to let her father's legacy disappear. 1 year later, the Seattle autumn painted Queen Anne Hill in brilliant hues of red and gold, leaves dancing across the grounds of the Blackwell residence as a crisp breeze carried the scent of the nearby sound. Inside the home, a very different atmosphere prevailed, one of excited chaos as final preparations were made for what Robert had begun calling the most important day of our lives. "Has anyone seen my blue tie? The silk one?" he called, emerging from the master bedroom half-dressed. "It's in your hand, Dad," Tyler replied with the exaggerated patience of a 9-year-old addressing a clearly frazzled adult. "You've been carrying it for like 10 minutes. Robert looked down, finding the tie indeed clutched in his right hand. "Right. Thanks, buddy. You're more nervous than Lily," Tyler observed, adjusting his own clip-on tie. "She's super calm." "Is she? Where is she?" "In her room with Mom. They're doing her hair." Robert nodded, trying to slow his racing heart. Today was adoption day, the culmination of 12 months of legal proceedings, home studies, and bureaucratic hurdles. By sunset, Lily Walker would officially become Lily Walker Blackwell, a permanent member of their family. The journey to this moment had been long and at times difficult, but never once had they questioned their decision. The aftermath of Thomas Reynolds' arrest had brought intense media scrutiny to both Reynolds Transport and the Blackwell family. The financial scandal made national headlines, with Reynolds eventually pleading guilty to multiple charges of fraud, tax evasion, and attempted murder. He received a 30-year sentence, effectively a life term for a man his age. Sarah Reynolds, who had cooperated fully with investigators, avoided prosecution. She had sold her interest in the company and established a foundation dedicated to corporate ethics, naming David Walker posthumously to its board of directors. She had also become a regular visitor to the Blackwell home, forming a tentative but meaningful relationship with Lily. Reynolds Transport had collapsed under the weight of the scandal and its hidden financial problems, its assets acquired by various competitors. Robert had ensured that the company's innocent employees found positions within Blackwell Logistics or other firms, recognizing that they shouldn't suffer for their employers' crimes. But beyond the headlines and business maneuvers, the most profound changes had occurred within the walls of the Blackwell home. Lily's integration into their family had progressed with remarkable naturalness, as if she had always been meant to be there. Initial nightmares and moments of withdrawal gradually gave way to increasing trust and even joy. The street-hardened child began to relax into the security of unconditional love, revealing a bright, inquisitive mind and a surprisingly mischievous sense of humor. Her academic assessment had shown gaps in her education from 2 years of homelessness, but also an innate intelligence that allowed her to catch up quickly once enrolled in school. By spring, she had joined Tyler at Lakeside School, where she excelled particularly in mathematics, a talent inherited from her father. Today marked the official recognition of what had already become reality in their hearts. Lily was a Blackwell. Robert made his way to her bedroom, knocking softly on the partially open door. "Is it safe to come in?" "Enter at your own risk," Jessica called back cheerfully. "We're in the final stages of hair engineering." He stepped inside to find Lily seated at her vanity, Jessica standing behind her, putting the finishing touches on an elegant French braid adorned with small white flowers. The transformation from the dirty, barefoot child on the marina dock to this poised young girl in a pale blue dress still occasionally took his breath away. "You look beautiful," he said, emotion making his voice rough. Lily met his eyes in the mirror, a smile spreading across her face, no longer the guarded half-smile of their early days, but a full expression of happiness that reached her eyes. "Thanks, Dad." The word still sent a warm surge through his chest each time she used it. She had begun calling them Mum and Dad about 6 months earlier, tentatively at first, then with increasing confidence as she saw how deeply it moved them. "Are you nervous?" he asked, perching on the edge of her bed. Lily considered the question with her characteristic thoughtfulness. "Not nervous exactly, just thinking about how much has changed. A year ago I was sleeping under the marina docks." Jessica placed her hands gently on Lily's shoulders. "And now we can't imagine our lives without you." "Tyler says you're the nervous one," Lily told Robert, a teasing light in her eyes. "Completely accurate," he admitted. "I keep checking my pocket for the adoption certificate, even though I know the judge will be the one to sign it." "Perfectionist," Jessica said fondly, adjusting his crooked tie. "Everything's going to be fine. Judge Martinez has already approved everything. Today is just the formal ceremony." A commotion from downstairs announced the arrival of their first guests, Robert's parents, who had embraced Lily from day one, his mother immediately declaring her the granddaughter I've been waiting for. They were followed shortly by Jessica's sister and her family, then a steady stream of close friends who had supported them throughout the adoption process. By noon, the Blackwell home was filled with loved ones gathered to witness and celebrate this new beginning. Marcus Gaines arrived with his wife, now more friend than employee, after the bonds forged during the Reynolds ordeal. Detective Rivera came bearing a gift wrapped in silver paper, a framed photograph of David Walker that she had obtained from old company records, knowing how precious any image of her father would be to Lily. Sarah Reynolds arrived last, still slightly hesitant despite the many bridges that had been built over the past year. She carried a small blue velvet box, which she presented to Lily privately before the ceremony. "It was your father's," she explained, as Lily opened it to reveal a vintage pocket watch. "He always had it at his desk. After he was gone, I managed to retrieve it before the office was cleared out. I've been waiting for the right moment to give it to you." Lily ran her fingers over the engraved surface, tears welling in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered, impulsively hugging the older woman. Sarah returned the embrace, her own eyes glistening. The adoption ceremony itself was held in the Blackwell's garden, beneath an arch of autumn flowers. Judge Martinez, a family court veteran with a reputation for making these occasions special, presided with warmth and dignity. Tyler stood proudly beside his sister, appointed the official keeper of the adoption certificate until the moment of signing. As the judge began the formal proceedings, Robert found himself reflecting on the extraordinary chain of events that had brought them to this moment. Had Lily not been in exactly the right place that night at the marina, had he not listened to her warning, their story would have ended in tragedy. Instead, it had transformed into something beautiful, a reminder that sometimes the most profound blessings arrive in unexpected packages. "Robert and Jessica Blackwell," Judge Martinez was saying, "do you solemnly declare your desire to adopt Lily Walker as your legal daughter, with all the rights, responsibilities, and love that entails?" "We do," they answered in unison, their voices steady and sure. "And Lily," the judge continued, turning to her with a gentle smile, "do you wish to become a legal member of the Blackwell family, with Robert and Jessica as your parents, and Tyler as your brother?" Lily looked at each of them in turn, the family that had opened their home and hearts to her when she had nothing. "I do," she said clearly, "more than anything. Then by the authority vested in me by the state of Washington, I am pleased to declare this adoption complete and this family whole." The judge signed the certificate with a flourish, then handed it to Lily. "Congratulations, Lily Walker Blackwell." Applause erupted from the gathered guests as Lily was enveloped in a family embrace, Tyler squeezing himself between the adults to be part of the moment. Tears and laughter mingled freely. the formal ceremony giving way to a celebration that continued well into the evening. As sunset approached, Robert found Lily sitting alone on the terrace swing, her new adoption certificate carefully placed beside her. She was holding her father's pocket watch, turning it over in her hands with a pensive expression. "May I join you?" he asked. She nodded, making room on the swing. They sat in comfortable silence for a few moments, watching the golden light fade over Puget Sound. "Do you think he knows?" Lily finally asked, her voice soft. "My dad. Do you think he knows I'm okay now?" Robert considered his answer carefully. "I believe he does, and I think he would be incredibly proud of you, not just for bringing the truth to light, but for your courage in opening your heart to a new family." "I'm not replacing him," Lily said, a hint of anxiety in her tone. "I'll always be his daughter too." "Of course you will," Robert assured her. "Being part of this family doesn't mean forgetting where you came from. Your father will always be part of you, and now he's part of us too." Lily leaned against his shoulder, relaxing. "I used to watch families from the outside, before. I'd see them at the marina or in the park and wonder what it felt like to belong somewhere." She glanced back toward the house, where Jessica was laughing with guests and Tyler was demonstrating his latest karate moves. "Now I know." The simple statement held such profound meaning that Robert had to swallow hard before responding. "We're the lucky ones, Lily. You've brought something special to this family that we didn't even know was missing." She smiled, slipping the pocket watch into her dress pocket before picking up her adoption certificate. "We should go back to the party. Mum said she'd be mad if we missed the cake cutting." "Heaven forbid," Robert agreed with mock seriousness. "She's been planning that cake for weeks." As they walked back toward the house, Lily suddenly stopped, turning to face him with unexpected intensity. "Thank you," she said, "for believing me that night. Not everyone would have listened to a kid from the streets." "I think I recognize something in you," Robert replied honestly. "A kind of integrity that reminded me of why I started my business in the first place, to build something meaningful, something true." The profound moment was interrupted by Tyler, who came racing toward them. "Come on. Mum says it's cake time, and if we don't hurry, Uncle Dave's going to eat all the corner pieces with the extra frosting." Lily laughed, her serious expression melting away as she allowed Tyler to pull her toward the house. Robert followed, watching both his children, with a sense of completion he had never expected to find. Inside, Jessica met his gaze across the crowded room, raising her champagne glass in a private toast. They had built a successful business, a beautiful home, a comfortable life, but it was this family now made whole, that represented their greatest achievement. 6 months later, on a crisp spring morning, Robert stood at the end of the newly rebuilt Shilshole Marina dock, watching as a sleek yacht glided into its berth. The Celestial Dawn II was slightly smaller than his previous vessel, but more advanced in its technology and safety features, and emblazoned on its stern was its new name, Second Chance. "She's beautiful," Lily said, coming to stand beside him. At 11, she was growing taller, her once thin frame filled out by proper nutrition, and her blonde hair healthy and shining in the morning sun. "Ready for her maiden voyage?" Robert asked, draping an arm around her shoulders. Lily nodded, though he felt a slight tension in her posture. This would be her first time actually boarding the yacht. The family had included her in every aspect of its design and construction, but the memories associated with the marina still carried emotional weight. Jessica and Tyler joined them, Tyler practically bouncing with excitement. "Can I steer it?" "Captain Wilson said he might let me steer a little bit." "We'll see," Jessica laughed, adjusting his life jacket. "Safety first, remember?" As they approached the gangway, Lily hesitated briefly. Robert squeezed her shoulder encouragingly but didn't push. This needed to be her decision. She took a deep breath, then stepped forward onto the yacht that symbolized both the danger they had escaped and the new life they had built together. Tyler immediately took her hand, pulling her toward the bow to show her his favorite features, his chatter dispelling any lingering shadows. From the captain's bridge, Robert watched his family exploring the vessel. The marina that had once been the site of potential tragedy had been reclaimed as a place of joy. Much like Lily herself had transformed from a harbinger of danger to the heart of their family. As the Celestial Dawn II pulled away from the dock, Lily joined him at the helm, her face tilted up to the sea breeze, eyes closed in quiet contentment. "Happy?" he asked. She opened her eyes, her smile as bright as the morning sun reflecting off the water. "Yes," she said simply. "I'm home." And as Seattle's skyline receded behind them and the open waters of Puget Sound beckoned ahead, Robert knew with absolute certainty that the most valuable cargo he would ever carry was right here on this deck. Not business contracts or material success, but the precious unexpected gift of family. Behind them, the wake of the yacht traced a path across the water, not an ending but a beginning. The journey ahead would have its challenges, as all family journeys do, but they would face them together, strengthened by the bonds forged in the crucible of those fateful days a year ago, when a barefoot girl had the courage to cry out a warning, and a man had the wisdom to listen. Sometimes, Robert reflected as the celestial dawn too cut smoothly through the sparkling waters, the most important decisions of our lives don't announce themselves with fanfare. They arrive in quiet moments, in seemingly small choices that change everything. His had come on a golden evening at a marina dock, when he chose to believe a child that most would have ignored. And in that moment of trust, a family was saved, a truth was revealed, and a little girl who had lost everything found her way home.